Good morning, children. Today we will study Dalton's law of partial pressure. This law describes the relation between the pressure of the mixture of non-reacting gases enclosed in a vessel to their individual pressures. The law was given by the Dalton in 1807. It states that at constant temperature, the pressure exerted by a mixture of two or more non-reacting gases enclosed in a definite volume is equal to the sum of the individual pressures which each gas would exert if present alone in the same volume at the same temperature. The individual pressure of gases are known as partial pressure. That means when a gas alone filled in the container, then its pressure is called as partial pressure. So you already know that the volume space occupied by the gas is called as the volume of the gas because the gas filled the full container, and that's why the volume of the container is equal to the volume of the gas. Then gases molecule exert pressure when they are kept in the container alone is called as pressure exerted by the gas, that is partial pressure. So if P is the total pressure of the mixture of non-reacting gases at temperature T and volume V, and P1, P2, P3 represent the partial pressure of the gases, then we can write the P is equal to P1, P2 plus P3 when temperature and volume are constant. The law can be illustrated by considering the following example. Suppose we have three containers of capacity 1 liter each, one containing X moles of nitrogen, the other Y molecules of oxygen, and the third having a mixture of X moles of nitrogen and Y moles of oxygen. All the three containers are kept at the same temperature. That you can see in the diagram. Three containers are there. One contains the nitrogen, other contains the oxygen, and then they are filled in the same container. Then the pressure exerted by the nitrogen is P1, pressure exerted by the oxygen is P2. And then in the third container, the pressure exerted is equal to P1 plus P2. Now, if the manometer attached to the first container shows a pressure P1 and attached to the second container shows a pressure P2, then the pressure in the third container is P1 plus P2. Now we'll see what is the utility of Dalton's law of partial pressure. This law is useful in calculating the pressure of the gas collected by the displacement of water. The gas being collected over water also contains water vapors. The observed pressure of the moist gas is equal to the sum of the pressure of the dry gas and the pressure of the water vapors. The pressure of the water vapors is constant at a given temperature and is known as aqueous tension at that temperature, and that is shown in the diagram. You can see the gas which is collected over the water. This method is called a water displacement method. So this gas contains the water vapors also, and that's why the total pressure exerted by the mixture of water vapor and gas is equal to the total pressure. So when we want to calculate the pressure exerted by the dry gas, then we subtract the pressure exerted by the vapors, and then we can write here P observed is equal to, that is the pressure of the gas plus aqueous tension. Aqueous tension is the pressure exerted by the water vapors. So pressure of dry gas is equal to P observed minus aqueous tension. In this way we can find out the pressure exerted by the dry gas. So this is the utility of the Dalton's law of partial pressure. I am repeating. According to Dalton's law of partial pressure, when the two or more non-reacting gases are taken in a container, then they exert pressure, and this total pressure exerted by the gaseous mixture is equal to the sum of partial pressure exerted by the each gas. Partial pressure in terms of mole fraction. We can also represent the partial pressure in terms of mole fraction. Mole fraction is one of the method of expressing concentration of a compound in a mixture. You have already studied about the mole fraction in first chapter. Mole fraction is the ratio of the number of mole of the component to the total number of moles. If N1 is the number of moles of any component present in a mixture and N is the total number of moles of all the components in a mixture, then the mole fraction, that is X1 of the component, is given as X1 is equal to N1 upon N. Now consider a mixture of two gases A and B with partial pressure PA and PB as their respective partial pressure in a vessel of volume B. So when we have taken one example in which two gases A and B are kept in a vessel of volume B and their pressures are represented, partial pressures are represented as PA and PB. Then we can write PA is equal to NART upon V, that is according to the ideal gas equation. We can write PA is equal to NA into RT upon V, and then it is equal to NB, and then we can write the PB partial pressure of the B gas is PB is equal to NB into RT upon V. Total pressure of the mixture P total is equal to PA plus PB. Now the P total is equal to PA plus PB, then we can write this is NA plus NB RT upon V. We have taken the NA and NB as the common because there is a common factor RT upon V. Now we can write the PA upon P total is equal to NA upon NA plus NV, that is represented by XA. And then PA is equal to XA into P total and PB is equal to XB into P total. So in this way we can represent the partial pressure of a gas in a mixture is equal to the product of its mole fraction and total pressure of the mixture. So this is the representation of the partial pressure of the gas. So this is the relationship between the partial pressure and the mole fraction. Now we'll solve the numerical based on this partial pressure or Dalton's law of partial pressure. At sea level, the composition of dry air is approximately nitrogen is 75.5%, oxygen is 23.2% and argon is 1.3% by mass. If total pressure at sea level is 1 bar, what is the partial pressure of each component? Consider 100 gram of gas, then moles of nitrogen is equal to mass of nitrogen divided by molar mass, that is 75.5 upon 28, that is equal to 2.7. Then we can write the moles of oxygen, and that is NO2, 23.2 upon 32, then it is equal to 0.725. Now we can calculate the moles of argon is equal to 1.3 upon 40 is equal to 0.0325. Now we can count the total number of moles is equal to 2.7 plus 0.725 plus 0.0325, then it is equal to 3.4575. Now we can find out the mole fraction of nitrogen is equal to 2.7 upon 3.4575, which is equal to 0.781. Then mole fraction of oxygen is equal to 0.725 upon 3.4575 is equal to 0.209. Mole fraction of argon is equal to 0.0325 upon 3.4575 is equal to 9.39 into 10 to the power minus 3. Now we can find out the partial pressure of nitrogen is equal to P total into mole fraction of nitrogen. P total is 1 bath, 1 into 0.781, then it is equal to 0.781 bar. Then partial pressure of oxygen is equal to total pressure into mole fraction of oxygen. Then it is equal to 1 into 0.209, then it is equal to 0.209 bar. And then we can find out the partial pressure of argon is equal to P total into mole fraction of argon, then it is equal to 1 into 9.39 into 10 to the power minus 3 bar. So in this way we can use the Dalton's law of partial pressure and we can find out the mole fraction and the partial pressure of the gases. And now we will study the kinetic molecular theory of gases. The various gas laws which we have studied so far were based on the experimental facts. There was no theoretical background for their justification. In order to explain the behavior of gases and answer the questions such as why do they exert pressure or why a volume is inversely proportional to pressure, etc., it became necessary to develop a molecular theory, that is, a mental picture, which is able to provide explanation for our experimental observation. And such theory is known as kinetic molecular theory of gases or microscopic model of gases. The various assumptions of kinetic theory are related to atoms and molecules which cannot be seen. Thus, kinetic theory is said to give a microscopic model of gases. The various postulates of the theory are: number 1, all the gases are made up of very large number of extremely small particles called molecules. Because each and every gas is composed of very small particles and which are called as molecule because they exist in the molecular state. Now the second point, the molecules are separated from one another by large spaces so that the actual volume occupied by the molecules is negligible as compared to the total volume of the gas. Because gases occupy a very large volume and that's why the volume occupied by the particle is negligible when it is compared to the total volume occupied by the gas. Third point, the molecules are not at rest but possess rapid random motion. During their motion, they collide with one another and also against the walls of the container. Now, fourth point, the pressure of the gas is due to bombardment of the gas molecules against the walls of the container. When the gas confined in a container, then the molecules they collide with each other as well as with the walls of container. And when they collide with the walls of container, then they exert pressure, which is called as the pressure exerted by the gaseous molecule. Now, fifth point, the collisions of the molecules with each other and with the walls of the container are perfectly elastic. That is, there is no loss or gain of kinetic energy. However, there may be redistribution of energy during such collisions. Sixth point, there are no attractive or repulsive forces between the molecules of the gases, they are completely independent of each other. Next point, at any instant, different molecules possess different velocities and hence different energies. However, the average kinetic energy of the molecules is directly proportional to the absolute temperature. That means the kinetic energy of the molecule is due to the temperature, and that's why we can say the kinetic energy of the molecule is directly proportional to the absolute temperature. Now we'll study behavior of real gases and deviation from ideal gas behavior. Actually, all the gases are real gases, but they behave ideally under certain conditions of temperature and pressure. So gases do not obey gas laws under all conditions of temperature and pressure, and that's why they are called as real gases. Most of the gases are real in nature, that is, they follow gas laws only at very low pressure and high temperatures, as under such a condition the gas molecules are far apart, that is, not in the influence of each other, and hence intermolecular forces of attraction are negligible. That is one point of kinetic theory of gases. It is also noticed that easily liquefiable gases such as carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, ammonia exhibit larger deviation as compared to gases such as hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, etc. that liquefy with difficulty. Now we'll study about the deviation. To study the deviation of real gases from ideal behaviors, we further study the PV versus P and P versus V plots for different gases. Now the first we will study about the PV versus P plot. We know that PV versus P plots are straight lines parallel to X or pressure axis for ideal gases. If we plot PV versus P for different real gases, we find that the plots are not straight lines, which clearly reveals that these gases show deviation from ideal behavior. And such plots are different real gases are shown in the following figure. You can see for the methane gas molecule, then carbon monoxide, and hydrogen, helium. So the gases which are ideal gases, they should be parallel to the pressure axis. Now the second condition, the pressure versus volume plot. This you can see in the graph. If we plot experimental values of pressure and volume at constant temperature for real gases and their theoretically obtained values as obtained by Boyle's law, the two plots do not coincide as shown in the following figure, that you can see the two, one for the real gases and other curve for the ideal gas. Thus from the above discussion, it is concluded that real gases deviate from ideal behavior, that is, they do not obey the gas laws under all conditions of temperature and pressure. The measurement of deviation, compressibility factor. The extent of deviation shown by real gases from ideal behavior is measured in terms of compressibility factor Z, which is defined as the ratio of product of PV and nRT. Mathematically, Z is equal to PV upon nRT. For ideal gases, Z is equal to 1. As for them, PV is equal to nRT at all temperature and pressure. Now we'll study the cause of deviations from ideal behavior. The ideal gas equations was derived on the basis of certain assumptions of kinetic theory, but when When studied carefully, it was found that two of these assumptions are not true in the conditions of high pressure or low temperature. These two assumptions are: number one, the intermolecular forces of attraction between the particles of a gas at ordinary temperature and pressure are negligible. The second, volume of the molecule of a gas is negligibly small in comparison to the space occupied by the gas. The correct assumptions at the conditions of high temperature, high pressure and low temperature are: first, the forces of attraction of repulsion between the molecules may not be negligible. The volume occupied by the gas may be so small that the volume occupied by the molecules may not be negligible. Now, corrections due to deviations. In 1983, van der Waals modified the ideal gas equation by introducing corrections in it for the failure of the two assumptions described above. The first, pressure correction. There exist very weak intermolecular forces of attraction in between the molecules of real gases. When high pressure is applied to such gases, their molecules become very close to each other and hence molecular interactions start operating. Thus, the molecules do not strike the walls of the container with full impact as other molecules because the molecular attractive forces drag them back. Hence, the pressure exerted by the real gas is lower than that expected for an ideal gas. P ideal is equal to P observed plus delta P. And delta P is directly proportional to the number of particles per unit volume square, or delta P is directly proportional to N upon V square, where N is the number of moles of the gas and V is the volume of the gas. So we can write delta P is equal to A into N square upon V square, where A is a constant. The correct pressure then is given by P corrected is equal to P observed plus A N square upon V square. Now we'll see the correction in the volume. At high pressure, when gas molecules are in contact, there exist some repulsive forces. Due to these forces, the molecule of gas behave as small but impenetrable spheres. In such a condition, the volume occupied by these molecules is also become significant and hence the volume available for compression of the gas will be less than the observed volume. If V is the volume of the gas, then volume available for compression is equal to total volume of the gas minus volume of the molecules. Then V corrected is equal to V minus NB, where B is the volume occupied by 1 mole of the molecule and N is the number of moles of the molecules. Now the van der Waals equation, on putting the values of corrected pressure and volume, the ideal gas equation we get equation P plus A N square upon V square, V minus NV is equal to nRT, where A and B are constant, value of which depend upon the nature of the gas. This equation is known as van der Waals equation. Now the significance of van der Waals constant. Van der Waals constant A is the measure of the magnitude of attractive forces among the molecules of the gas. Greater the value of A, larger are the intermolecular force of attraction. It does not depend upon temperature and pressure. Second, van der Waals constant B is the measure of the effective size of the gas molecules and is equal to 4 times the actual volume of the gas molecules. It is called excluded volume and co-volume.